Pat Beverley is gone from the Lakers. Hallelujah. Praise be to the Lord. I'm so done with Pat Beverley.
I don't like the Lakers at all. I'm so happy for you.
I needed
like
this.
That's how happy I am. This is how much I dislike Pat Beverley, that I'm so happy for you. He's gone. That we don't have to talk about him anymore.
I said, let's talk basketball.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back. I'm Justin.
I'm Sachin.
And we are here with a very exciting episode of the Brown Guys Basketball Podcast. Not even the one we planned, right?
No, 100%. We had one plan for this morning. We talked about it a couple days ago. We woke up this morning and we're exhausted, but we're like, no, we have to do it right now. Try to get it out before the day's over, because this is. I
can't even make a joke. The one we had planned that we'll do is an ode to LeBron after passing Kareem. And yes. Any chance that Sachin got to delay that episode, he was going to take. So
hey, that one was, I wanted that for you.
Fair.
I'm like, this is the one time we're going to celebrate this guy for you because you love him so much. You know how I feel about him. Second best player of all time. Anyways, it's not a LeBron episode.
That's not what we're doing today. Well, it's going to be a LeBron episode in a little bit, but we got a bigger news story to talk about. So biggest trade that we've seen in the NBA in my lifetime would probably be this one, only because I can't think of a better player traded at this point of their career than KD. And the fact that he's going to a team because most of the time with the NBA, what you see is guys sign, right? Like the big three or KD going over to Golden State. But you don't see people trade players in the prime of their careers.
No, but I love how the Nets are just like, you know what? Fuck it. We're done. We're calling it a day. We're done. Kyrie's gone. You know what? We're just moving on from this. I'm tired. You can feel them just be exhausted with the whole thing and be like, you know what? I would like to not be in the news for 5 minutes.
And you know what? They're going to not be in the news for about 5 years based on how they set up these trades. So good for them.
Yeah.
Just kind of fly under the radar. So let's go through it first. Initial reactions. You actually were late to the party. Our group chat's blowing up, and you're nowhere to be found last night. So tell everyone what you were doing while Twitter was exploding.
I was in a movie. I went to watch the amazing Cate Blanchett and Tar. She was fantastic. I went with a good friend of mine, and me and her were sitting there, and then we went to dinner afterwards. And then my phone was just still losing it, and I didn't look after. She's like, "What? You answer your phone?" Because it was going off in the theater. It was like just sitting there, and I didn't check it because Cate Blanchett. So then we're sitting at Earl's, and I look at my phone and I go, oh no. And then I had to explain to her for the next 20 minutes why this was insane. And what's great is she loves basketball. Like, she likes basketball enough to know about it. So she was really interested, and she knows how much we dislike Kyrie, and we're happy he's gone. So
well, okay. So one thing with superstar trades is the one thing when you're in a sport, when you love a sport, a lot of times people overvalue players in terms of superstar. My test that I love is actually Colin Cowherd's test. Shout out to him, which is, does your wife/mother know who the player is? Because they don't watch the sport, they don't love the sport, but if they know who that person is, that is a superstar. And when I told my wife last night, KD got traded, she was like, what? Like, she knew who he was. And that to me tells me the magnitude of the trade in the circumference
it's crazy.
of the world.
Kevin Durant being traded right now to the Phoenix Suns, a team with a playoff experience. What I love most about this is because Chris Paul, I think he's been a team changer his entire career. He will go to a team and they will all of a sudden be amazing because of the way he moves the ball and the way that he plays. But now I think he's getting older, and you could see come fourth quarter, he's getting really gassed. Yeah. I think now he just gets to be a facilitator like Jason Kidd was later in his career. And you could see that that's where he's like, I can just shoot when I'm needed, but for the most part, I can facilitate to all these guys. Oh my God. KD's going to love that.
Imagine how open Chris Paul's shots are going to be, the ones he's taking. I mean, it's going to be the easiest shots he's ever had in his life. And he's not going to take many of them, but
yeah.
You know what's funny?
His mid-ranger is money. Like, it's money. So when he shoots
Chris Paul's heavily underrated. The whole can't win the big game thing. I don't like to put it on one guy when they're not like the number one player.
He's been on pretty shitty teams most of his career, and he's just elevated them. That's what he's done.
Was he an original Hornet? New Orleans?
Yeah, he made Tyson Chandler and David West look absolutely like studs. Get them contracts. Yeah. No, Tyson Chandler is a great player. Offensively, he made him look like he had a lot more skills.
Yeah. I agree. The one thing that I find interesting about this trade is Devin Booker is someone that Katie has a lot of respect for. So he's mentioned him by name. And usually these shooters, like they kind of, it takes one to know one type of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how these two mesh together, because I'm not sure how their games meld. You know what I mean? It's a very similar style of game. So that's something I'm really excited to watch.
It's great because I think Kevin Durant finds a way to mold into wherever he is, because that's the type of player he is. When you're an off the ball type of scorer, and not only scorer, I mean elite in the terms of people say he might be the best scorer of all time because he has no flaws on the offensive end. He can do anything in any situation. Kobe had a hard time guarding him, right? Early on in his career. He was vocal about that. So when you're a player that can mold into a play like that and a team like that and have a point guard that is specifically facilitated and actually an offensive center, DeAndre Ayton, who's just going to get lob after lob after lob now.
Yeah.
I think that team is just set up for absolute success. I think if they don't win, it's now a letdown.
So obviously Bridges is a big piece to lose. You have to give up to get. But were you shocked? I was surprised they were able to keep Ayton through all of this.
I can't believe it. I thought Ayton was gone, especially after all this that happened with him in the preseason, and he wasn't talking to the coach. I thought Ayton was on the way out. I can't believe that Brooklyn didn't say you have to send us Ayton or else no.
So it is 12:19 at your time, Pacific time, right? So we still have time for things to happen, things to shake out. But I'm guessing that the Suns, well, I don't know what assets they have left other than Ayton. They're done. But a lot of things are going to be going on to kind of combat this. So one of the teams, we didn't talk about this in the rundown, but one thing I was thinking about is Nuggets and Grizzlies. Nuggets made a small move, but when you're top and then teams below you start making things to climb up, do you stand pat because you've been excellent all season, or do you kind of take a swing? Like, where would you go if you're those teams?
Problem is when you're good, you don't really have that many assets to move around because you don't want to mess with the chemistry of the team.
Yeah.
So you can't really take a huge swing like that and mess up, because chemistry, I think, is important. Like even when we saw like LeBron goes to Miami, their first year, they're building things together. You have all these amazing people together. That happens a lot. You know, you have great players that show up and you need time to build chemistry because that's important. I think in that position, you say, no, we're still this good. We've still beaten a lot of really good teams that were good before this. Even though there's a super team that was just created, we think the way that we play the ball, we move the ball around and we play ball, Denver specifically, can beat them because you can't really mess with that at this point.
So the reason I bring up the Grizzlies is one thing they're legendarily known for the last 5 years is their ability to outdraft the room. They're just crazy at the draft. So my question is, do you think if they put Desmond Bane in a trade offer with those same picks, which by the way, the pick swaps are always hilarious to me, that you're never doing a swap with these teams anyway. So you just GMs just throw them in because it's never going to happen. But if you put Bane instead of Bridges in that deal and then same picks, do you think that gets it done for Memphis? Because I kind of think I want Bane slightly over Bridges.
That's tough. I do want Bane over Bridges. I think Desmond Bane is something every team wants.
Yeah.
I think Desmond Bane is who Pat Beverley thinks he is.
Yo, I feel like that's a slight to Desmond Bane. I think he's
no way. You know the way Pat Beverley talks about it and the way he plays and how big he acts and all that stuff. I think that's who Desmond Bane is. The guy that Pat Beverley sees in the mirror is Desmond Bane. So that's a great player who can play D, shoot the ball.
Dylan Brooks looks in the mirror and sees Pat Beverley.
Oh no!
I'm just saying, man. He talks a lot of shit for someone who gets 5 points.
I know. It's legitimately. There's a lot of people like that in the NBA. You see 5-year-old kids now on Instagram like doing this to other 5-year-old kids. I'm like, you're 2'6", dude.
Yeah,
like
you had a growth spurt before him. Relax. Like
relax.
You haven't won the race yet. Like
yeah, you're still gonna do arts and crafts with him in 5 minutes. Like chill. But yeah, that's tough. I think Desmond Bane is what you want at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's if I'm a Grizzly fan, I'm not upset we didn't get KD. More thinking I would like to see something happen just to kind of shore up the team. Especially now, I don't know when it happened, but in the last month, the Grizzlies have turned into the villains in the NBA. They were kind of the likable little brother to the Warriors a year ago, and how the times change quickly. So
because they went from looking like a blue collar workhorse grind powerhouse work your ass off young team into a team that flexes on everybody, even when they're down 20. And it's so
Yeah.
weird. Like,
Yeah,
I
it is
hate
weird.
that switch. Stick with what you were doing, that grind workhorse mentality where we're dogs, we're coming here to play,
Yeah.
not, hey,
Yeah.
you can do that. But if that's not your identity, you can't just switch that quickly on people and not have them react.
So, okay, we agree KD to the Suns probably puts them at the top 3 teams in the fully healthy in the league. In the West, would you say they're number 1?
I would. I think it's a disappointment now if they lose because they've been there.
Yeah.
You have, not only do you have a veteran in Chris Paul, you have the guy that was anointed the next Kobe at one point, whether that be true or not, in Devin Booker. You have Ayton, who's always been up and coming, who's made some amazing plays. And once you add Kevin Durant to a team that is middling, that team becomes number 1 to me. This to me is tantamount to the Kawhi Leonard trade Toronto made.
Yeah, I actually think it's a really good example. The only difference is the Suns, obviously back then assets weren't traded the way they are, but the only difference is the Suns kind of have a internal clock on this because the amount they gave up for Kevin Durant means they need this to work. Whereas the Raptors, they made a move that put them in a chance to win, but if they didn't win, they didn't lose a crazy amount of assets. This is crippling for the Suns' future, so they need to find a way to make this work. That's
I don't think they feel that way because they still have Ayton and Booker, and I think Phoenix is a destination.
Ayton.
But Phoenix is a destination. The problem with Toronto is that it wasn't like a lot of players don't really want to go there still.
Yeah.
But Phoenix is a destination that KD wanted to go to Phoenix. I think they're not going to have too many problems getting people they want in the offseason if they have money and if they have ability. I don't think they really worry about that because it's like it's hot. It's nice.
New owner too, which helps. That always kind of brings a new little bit of glaze on the team. So,
and they've always had a great staff for injuries and all that stuff. They've been ahead. Grant Hill went there late in his career just to make sure he could still play. So that's a huge thing that players want to play with.
Oh, that's actually a good point. I didn't think of that. So, all right, KD to the Suns is obviously the big news of the day, but the big news of the day for your boy is a little bit north of there. We got Westbrook is finally out of LA, and I am just so happy. Did you okay? First of all, we got to address it. LeBron, congratulations. I love you. I have a full LeBron rant coming about his greatness. But did you see Westbrook in that game trying his best to not involve LeBron when he had the ball? It was unbelievable. They were talking about it on the broadcast. They never call out players for that.
I think, okay, so LeBron just came off of, and this is, again, congratulations, LeBron. You're amazing. That's an unbelievable feat that nobody ever thought would be beaten. You're a sensational basketball player. I think you're fantastic. Okay. The day before, 2 days before, right, they don't get Kyrie in this trade.
Yeah.
He goes on an interview and says, am I disappointed that we didn't get Kyrie? Yeah. I'm really disappointed. I want a player that caliber. I want a player that caliber that plays with me. I want all this. If you're Russell Westbrook, one of the top 75 players of all time, who has moved to the bench, done everything that you can for that team, I don't know why people still call this guy a bad player. They're stuck in this narrative of it. It's trash. In 28 minutes, he's averaging 13, 7, and 8 or whatever. So at that point, and then he knows he's being traded on top of that and have your leader of your team say something like that, you're going to be, as a human being, you're going to be upset. In the game that LeBron beat the record, Russell Westbrook in 28 minutes, Jess, imagine this is a player that we call trash. 27 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 10 for 19, 4 for 7 from 3, 2 steals, and a block.
What was the turnovers?
6. LeBron had 5 in more minutes.
LeBron had 5.
They're both, but if you're
that's a ball hog game. That's a ball hog game.
But see, that's what I mean. That's this generation now. That one game. Listen to the stats I just named you. If any other player, point guard, had those stats, and nobody would be like, look how many turnovers he had. 6 for that game. Fine. In 28 minutes off the bench, that's exactly who you want off the bench.
The difference is, and it's a big difference, if you watch the games, that's why the stats aren't always telling the truth. If you watch the game, first of all, Westbrook scored a bunch of garbage time points. He scored, I think, 8 or 10 points in the last minute when they were down by 9, and he was getting layups because they were guarding the 3, right? The second thing is, it's the way he plays when he has the best players on the floor. I have no issue with Westbrook playing hero ball when it's him with the second unit. It's his entry passes to AD that were shockingly bad for someone that I thought was, a really talented point guard at passing. It's the amount of bad decisions that I see him make when he has the best players on the floor that frustrates me. I would be happy. Happy is not the right word. I'd be fine with Westbrook if I didn't have to watch him play with LeBron and AD. The amount that he played, because they don't have any depth on that team. They just don't.
Yeah.
But Westbrook, it's weird. Westbrook without stars is actually a lot more palatable. He really is, because you see the difference in how good these players are, like, compared to Westbrook. But then Westbrook out there with the second unit, there's a gap between him and those guys. You know what I mean? He's like in this weird middle ground of NBA players that's too good for the bench, but not good enough to start on a winning team. You know what I mean?
I fully agree with you, but he has, but what you want is that guy to be released off the bench. And for sure, that's why he's playing less minutes and playing with the bench now, because he will play with the starters less. And you can be annoyed with that for sure. But it does not mean that on a team that is starving for statistics, starving for points, rebounds, and assists on all this stuff, that a guy, top 75 player of all time, comes off the bench for you and gets released. There are other qualms with Russell Westbrook. No, he is not infallible. He makes a lot of mistakes. Don't get me wrong, but that is exactly what your team wants and needs, especially if they're empty stats. A team with no stats needs empty stats.
No, and I think that's where we agree. I guess my big thing, and it's hard to communicate the issue, is the Russ with AD and LeBron minutes. I need Russ to way sit back, and that's something that's not in his DNA. You know what I mean?
We'll agree. Yeah,
and
I guess I love that about him.
Yeah,
that's my problem.
But that's also why
I want him to
MVP,
never turn it
right? You can't turn that off if you want to be great. So, but one thing we can agree on, I know you're not going to disagree with me on this, is Pat Beverley is gone from the Lakers. Hallelujah. Praise be to the Lord. I'm so done with Pat Beverley.
I don't like the Lakers at all. I'm so happy for you.
I needed
like
this.
That's how happy I am. This is how much I dislike Pat Beverley, that I'm so happy for you. He's gone. That we don't have to talk about him anymore.
I know. Just the crowning moment for Pat Beverley. Everything you need to know about Pat Beverley as a player on the Lakers was encapsulated in that Celtics game. He comes in and hits that three, and then he comes in and has that crazy dunk, and you think, wow, that is going to be the highlight of the year for the Lakers. This is a TSN turning point. Canadians will know what I mean. Then he, for no reason, with 8 seconds left, fouls Jaylen Brown on a layup. And how did he foul him, Sachin? Did he hard foul him? Or did he tap him on the head?
Give him a tap.
He'll tap on the head, right? So Jaylen Brown, of course, makes the free throw, because why wouldn't he? Then we go to overtime after LeBron's fouled, whatever. We go to overtime. Why is there a technical free throw being shot at the beginning of overtime before they do a tip-off? Do you remember why? Because Pat Beverley decided to show up the refs with a camera. So the Lakers start overtime down. In the history of basketball, how many teams started overtime losing? Just tell me how it's possible to start overtime losing.
Question we've ever been asked on this podcast.
It's just unbelievable to me. You started overtime losing.
Start.
The only time you go to overtime, it's not tied. I can't with this guy, and he's finally gone. Enjoy Orlando, go to Disneyland, run your podcast, do whatever you want. What did I say in the group chat today that I said I'm going to leave? Because you said, who did they get? They got Mo Bamba? And I was like, I'll take less Bamba. I'll take whatever I can get. This is just,
I was so proud
I'm sorry. I'm so happy.
Mo Bamba, actually, for any team that has 15 minutes off the bench, that's what he right now, whatever he is, that's what he's good for, and he's great at it. Anything more than that, I have qualms with Mo Bamba. But if you come off 15 minutes off the bench, he plays D against the second unit, he gets a bunch of blocks, and he gets a bunch of rebounds. It's pretty great. He can hit a three here and there.
My brother loves Mo Bamba. My brother doesn't watch a ton of basketball, but he plays, or he is so invested in fantasy basketball. So if you don't watch basketball, but you play fantasy basketball, Mo Bamba is waiting to be unleashed superstar from the eyes of the paper. You know what I mean? When you see
You're talking to a guy
stats,
who picked you. I drafted him for 3 years, dude.
It's just unbelievable.
I was waiting. Yeah.
My brother Paul will always tell me, like, you'll see him, you pick up Mo Bamba. I'm like, he's only playing 18 minutes. He's like, but imagine he gets 30. What could he do with 30? I'm like, he's not going to get 30.
I'm the same, Paul. I'm the same. I believe in it some way, someday.
So okay, well,
Because then you don't want to be in a position where he all of a sudden shows up and that's the time you don't get him.
Well, that's actually what I did with Thomas Bryant. He was, I mean, I actually thought he was good in LA. We talked about this before. I think Mo Bamba's kind of replacing those minutes, and they picked up some second round draft picks that they then shipped out to get more pieces. But and by the way, second round draft picks, what, meaningless now in the NBA? They're just garbage.
2K, and 2 second round draft picks. That's what you do in 2K when you're trying to make a trade together. I will send you every second round draft pick I have,
just for any player. Yeah. So
any player.
Lakers bring in D'Lo, Beasley, Vanderbilt, Bamba. We talked about. It's like it kind of reminds me, honestly, of the. Do you remember LeBron's last year in Cleveland when they had the mass exodus and then brought in a whole new crew of guys with Jordan Clarkson, George Hill? It was like a new team. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah. So what do you think? Like, okay, Lakers better, worse, even?
My God, so much better. I think the Lakers. Again, I was not on the wagon of oh my God, the Lakers have such a bad roster before this. I think they had a not a very good roster. I still think they could have done more noise than what they were doing. But this roster, if there is any qualms with this roster now, I think there is an issue because they got the exact guard that LeBron needs to play with. They got a 3-point shooting guard who can move the ball, but for the most part, his job is there to hit threes. They got enough centers off the bench. AD's coming back. Well, who do they have in the wings now? Now, they also picked up Vanderbilt, and who was the other guy?
They picked up Beasley. Their wings are still a little light. It's a lot of two guard. Like, you got guys like Lonnie Walker, and it's not. They're not that big, but again, not
Lonnie is great, and Schroeder,
not a perfect roster. Yeah, Schroeder is. But they have very hit or miss. But
look at the names. Like, look at the from top to bottom. Everybody can play, and if you are surround those guys that everybody can play with LeBron and AD, that to me is like you have potential. AD should be when he was healthy was the best player in the NBA.
I'm excited for AD to come back. I can't wait for him to come back. I don't know when he's going to play next. He hasn't played the last 3-4 weeks, or if he has, I haven't noticed. But super excited for AD to.
But do you remember when he was healthy at this season?
Yeah, he was a monster. That's why I'm so upset. Is what happened?
He was a monster.
Yeah, he was a monster. He kind of looks like one too. Oh, he was in Space Jam 2. Seen it twice.
I haven't seen it.
You're missing out. I watched it once for each of us, actually. Anyways,
so you watched the second best Space Jam of all time. Is that what it is?
No, I've seen the first one as well.
Yeah, so that's the second best. Space
I'm not
Jam.
even gonna lie. The first Space Jam is definitely better. It's I don't even know what to say. But Nuv, shout out to Nuv, likes the second one better. So that's why I married her.
She's just a good wife, bro. She's just looking out.
Yeah, that's true. So okay, we like the Lakers moves, obviously. Where do we think Westbrook's going? The initial thoughts were Bulls. Immediate report was Bulls were interested. Now that's kind of cooled off. Heat and Clippers. Heat, I'm a little bit tentative on. I don't love Westbrook with Butler, but I do like the idea of they've been on Westbrook for a few years now, the Clippers. So what do you think about him with Kawhi?
It's so interesting, the Clippers getting to Westbrook. I just think it would be such a weird mishmash of players, and I would love to see it. Nothing about me. I would turn it on every night to watch Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. Because who would they trade for him? That's the thing, is we don't know nowadays. I don't even know.
I think it's if Utah buys him out and then you just bring him on.
Totally. You're right. So any team really can sign him if you want to sign him for. He's getting
his money anyway, right? So
there's options just everywhere. Like he could.
They
sign
traded Reggie Jackson today. I don't know. It seems plausible.
Did they trade Reggie Jackson today?
I didn't know that. I didn't see what the return was, but they did trade Reggie Jackson today.
Oh, then they're getting Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean,
that is
we're not going to find out Westbrook for a little while because I think the buyout's going to happen a little bit later on in the season. But the weird thing is if they do get Westbrook, that means Paul George definitely okayed it, and they played together for 2 years. So either he really likes playing with him or he doesn't. So if they get him, that's going to be kind of interesting because that means he kind of, wants Westbrook there. Whereas, Westbrook's kind of a weird one, right? Like if you've never played with him, you might think, oh, that might work. And if you have played with him, you might be like, I never want to play with him again, like KD. But
who has Westbrook played with besides KD? KD and him went pretty far. And they did a lot of great things.
Westbrook's played with a lot of great players. He's played with Harden. He's played with
but Harden, nobody wants to play with Harden.
Bradley Beal. anyways.
Bradley Beal. That was Brad. They had fun.
They actually were. They were fun. They were fun. The Wizards were fun
but they
for
were
a
the
year.
Wizards. They enjoyed each other, and honestly, he played well with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's stats didn't depreciate.
And honestly, I'm not even going to hold it against Westbrook because when he went to the Lakers, there wasn't a single person outside of that organization that thought that would work. Like that was a really terrible mixing of basketball talents. You know what I mean? So the Westbrook
my big problem with people having problem with Westbrook is we are admonishing someone for working really hard. And so you're not wrong, but a lot of players have a lot more qualms than Russell does and do a lot less.
No, but those players that you're talking about, outside of maybe Ben Simmons, they don't make the money that Westbrook does. And working hard is only going to get you so far. Working smart is how you go from like A to B for those level of players, right? I'm not going to have the same issues with D'Lo or, you know what I mean, versus Westbrook, because the expectation is more when you're a max level player. If you're a former MVP, top 75, I have a higher level of bar for what I want from you versus, the guys below him.
And just the statistics that I just gave off you, that's a max contract player.
I know.
Granted, he has a lot of issues, but he just may be on a different team. That's fine. You're not wrong. Like, people have to go to the right place for them, for their game.
Yeah.
But we can't blame an entire team's problems whenever he goes there, and that's what he's become.
Yeah, I'm not gonna blame.
Right?
You're right. That's fair. I don't want to dump on Westbrook for 30 minutes. I just it was a bad fit in LA. End of story. That's fine.
So we're actually excited because I'm happy for you because you don't want him on that team, and I want him to go to a team that appreciates and loves him because I love him. So this is a win-win.
It's win-win, and he might end up back in LA. Might not have to move. So
I would love that. Oh,
that would be fun.
That to me. Give me that storyline.
Speaking of point guards on the move, we had one last week. Kyrie Irving, very popular on this podcast, completely uncontroversial player we talk about. Simple takes no one has problems with. What do we think about that deal? And what do we think about the Mavericks moving forward?
I think that's the perfect place for Kyrie Irving. I think he works better when he's a scorer in the two position that actually doesn't command the ball as much. Like, his usage is really high, but I think dropping that and just having him, whenever he gets the ball, just go and score, because the Mavs need that more than anything.
Yeah.
They need somebody that's just gonna get a bucket besides Luka. I don't know where that place is.
Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. And how well did he play? Like, a lot of players like that are kind of undersized two guards, I call them. They can play the point, but they're most comfortable at the two. A lot of times when they have that forward or that point guard that is bigger, like a Luka or LeBron or that point forward, they work well with them because they don't have to do all the point guard duties.
Yeah. You turn them, when you have a point forward, you can turn a non-traditional point guard into a shooting two for 10 possessions. You know what I mean? And that's huge for
totally.
them.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to work. I think the only question I have is that is a defensive nightmare for them on the backcourt when you have Luka and Kyrie on the court together. So it kind of seems like they're going to have to outscore their problems. And Finney Smith is a good defender. So giving him up in that trade is obviously you're getting the better player back, but it's just, I find it a little bit interesting. And then obviously with KD going to the Suns and all these moves, it's almost like Dallas goes to here and then like the pack goes to here, you know what I mean? So
yeah. So they might be in the same place because everybody else is increased.
Yeah, nothing changed for them at the end of all of it, but for like a day. And he looked good yesterday. Was it the Clippers they beat?
But did you see everybody else's scoring in that? Everybody scored in double digits.
Yeah.
That was impressive to me that the and I won't harp on how I feel about moving the ball and stuff, but like, it's crazy that Luka's out, Kyrie comes in, and everybody starts scoring. That could be a boon for everybody. If everybody feels that they're going to be involved more, or they are excited about a changing of the guard. Sometimes an ESPN turning point for a team is that trade that they're like, oh, okay, we're in contention now.
Yeah,
really.
No, I think there's the thing with Kyrie that I find so fascinating is teams love playing with Kyrie. Like, players love Kyrie. All the noise around him, it doesn't seem to affect the actual 12 guys on the roster very often. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's very
even
true.
In Boston, he left on the worst terms you could leave, like promising he'd be there. He wants his jersey retired, and then he dips. And they're dapping him up, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, after they lose a series to him. And I'm like, this is so fascinating to me. You know what I mean? They just
Very
like
interesting.
him.
Yeah. People just the players just like Kyrie and they like playing with him, and that's telling of his ability on the basketball court.
Yeah. So, all right, we went through the big trades. Obviously, there's going to be a ton more moves, and we'll try and get to those if anything comes down the wire. If our phones blow up, I don't see anything going crazy. I'm checking right now, but there is one topic I wanted to talk about that you brought up that I wanted your opinion on because I think it's quite interesting, and that's OG Anunoby rumors. The Warriors are trying to make a move for him. So what do you think about that? And who would be going back? What are your thoughts? Because this is your two favorite teams.
I don't know who they could possibly trade for. I was just thinking like maybe a Wiggins, like maybe Wiggins comes to Canada. I don't know if the Warriors would do that. Homecoming. But what I'm thinking is if the Raptors are deciding to call it, what if they do a Draymond for OG Anunoby? Because I know that's weird. I don't know if the Warriors would do that right now either, but if the Warriors decide, hey, Steph is out, I think we might call this year. They get Draymond off the books, but they get an OG back.
Yeah.
For their future. And then the Raptors get Draymond for 6 months, and then they get a lot of cap space.
But if you're the Raptors, is cap space the way to go? Or I feel like the Raptors are one of the teams in the league that have to trade their way into good players.
I just don't know who
outside of the draft.
This roster. Who would they trade for OG? OG is like a huge asset. Everybody wants him right now. I've always said I love OG. I think he's a great player. I think people value him like crazy, so we should trade him for a
would it be something like Kuminga and obviously not Wiseman anymore, but Moody, Kuminga, first round picks? Like that's kind of the way, because I don't think OG makes crazy money that you need to do a Draymond swap. Yeah. I think you can make the money work if you did a Kuminga Moody type of deal.
I can see Masai loving a Kuminga type player. He loves that kind of athletic workhorse type of player.
Yeah.
But I think OG, everybody's offering so much for him. Is that enough for if they're getting so much?
We've been hearing about OG for like a year and a half now. Hey, what are the offers? Like, what is on the table? I'm dying to know. Like, who is in the sweepstakes and what are they putting on the table? Because Masai's not an idiot, right?
You'd think there was some sort of contract out there that some team would want to get rid of, that they'd be like, okay, we can get OG and trade for this contract, but that just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, because a lot of teams apparently want him, but maybe it's like a middling want him. We want him. We're willing to slightly overpay and give you a bunch of picks for him with these middling players.
But it is weird that Woj, who's like the most connected guy, he talks about OG in his tweets more than any other player that isn't a superstar. You know what I mean? Like constantly bringing up OG's name. And I just want to know, like, when the OG trade happens, I feel like no matter what they get, I'm going to be underwhelmed just based on how much conversation there's been.
Yeah, if it's not KD for OG,
right?
That's what I expect.
If it's not
if it's not another Kawhi Leonard situation, you know what I mean? Then
I think
we're all going to be.
It's not going to be what we want, but it's weird. As someone who watches OGs like almost every game, and I watch a ton of Raptors games as well. I think he's really good, but I'm kind of in your camp. It's a little bit over the top, but maybe they think put him on a like really good team, and you'll see the value of a player like that who doesn't need the ball in his hands and two-way wing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's great. I think he's a great player, but the amount of noise that OG Anunoby gets when it comes to trades or other players or the discussion around the league, maybe he's doing stuff that we don't know, basketball wise. That's just, maybe he's really smart. Maybe he's, I watch him the way he moves off the ball. I watch him on defense. He's very good on defense. He's a 3-and-D guy.
To a T. He is a 3-and-D guy. Like the perfect 3-and-D guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But the way he's talked about to me is like, good for you, OG, but I don't know enough to trade for that.
What do we think about his name having some sort of cachet in the NBA circles?
He's the OG.
I'm just saying my sister believes that names have a lot to do with your success.
She's 100% right.
And so I don't know. OG is a pretty good name to have if you're in the NBA.
Why so many actors have stage names? And my God, Kal Penn, his name is Kalpinder Modhi. And years ago, he said, I wasn't working. I changed my name to Kal Penn, started working on everything.
That's why I didn't know that story. Because I argued the opposite.
Don't fully quote me on his real name. I think it was years ago I heard that, but
it's not like.
But definitely he said that. Yeah, exactly. It's not like presenting this on the internet. Hi, Kal Penn. I think you're great.
So
You're an
okay,
OG.
you're an OG Calpen. I like him too. What we can take from all of this is the NBA is definitely back. We'll look at them trying to take over Super Bowl week. Hey, I'm just here trying to cheer
Smart.
for my Eagles, and they're just like throwing all these trades at me, and it's the most annoying.
My conspiracy theory is that Kyrie announced his trade demand, one of his 6 billion problems that he has, on Jordan Day, out of respect for LeBron.
Really? I didn't realize it was on Jordan Day. What is Jordan Day 23? So
they had all these
February
plans on
3rd.
all the news. They were going to celebrate him all day on Jordan Day. And then Kyrie that day is like, no, I would like to demand a trade. That's my
why do we need to celebrate Jordan? Whatever.
Because he's the best player of all time.
Is it because they cut him? Nike cut him? And
he's the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, so they cut. Whoa, I get this now. Nike cut Kyrie. He's not getting paid by them anymore. Jordan is their biggest basketball brand. He's playing 4-dimensional chess. You know, Kyrie
and also he's friends with LeBron, and he loves LeBron. Yeah. So there it makes sense.
So
Kyrie, just another reason.
Before we get to the draft that I'm super excited for, this is going to be my favorite one yet. What do we think Kyrie to the Lakers chances are start of next season? Free agent.
I think
Lakers freed up cap space. I think
very high. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to live in the world where LeBron and Kyrie play together in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that's what they wanted by this trade demand. I think they were like, hey, we have 2 picks. We have Westbrook. We can offer this, do this. Because the same thing happened with AD before. I think LeBron was talking about getting AD and said, AD, demand a trade. We'll set this up. We'll do all this. We'll offer this. And then you won't sit, you won't play. And then we'll see what happens. And it's smart. It's a smart move to get what you want. But I think Brooklyn was like, no, you go to Dallas.
They didn't foresee the pettiness of Joe Tsai saying, I will not send you where you want to go.
Yeah, you've caused enough drama. And then they go in, we're like, hey, Katie, we'll send you where you want. We're calling this. You know, out of the conversations they had where he rescinded his trade request, all that stuff. Anyways, we're going to get to Brooklyn.
Oh, I'm excited.
I said, let's talk basketball.